May 1945. Germany lies in ruins. The Third Reich has fallen. But the war isn't over for everyone. Not yet. In a quiet airfield somewhere in Allied-controlled Germany, cameras roll. Color cameras, capturing something the world has never seen before. Hermann Göring, Hitler's second-in-command, founder of the Luftwaffe, stands before Allied officers. His medals gleam in the sunlight. He's smiling, joking, as if he hasn't just lost a war that killed 70 million people. Beside him, Adolf Galland, the legendary fighter ace with 104 kills, Albert Kesselring, the tactical genius, Hans-Ulrich Rudel, the most decorated combat pilot in history. They're prisoners now, the men who once commanded the skies over Europe, the architects of the Blitzkrieg, the warriors of the Luftwaffe. And for the first time, we see them not in grainy black and white propaganda, but in vivid, startling color, as real as if they were standing in front of you today. Their faces tell 1,000 stories. Pride, defiance, relief, regret. Tonight, we're revealing the untold story behind these extraordinary images, who these men really were, what they did, and what happened to them after the cameras stopped rolling. This is Voices from WW2, and the truth about the Luftwaffe's final days will change how you see history. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button. This video uses restored color footage most people have never seen. We're bringing you face-to-face with history's most controversial warriors. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because Voices from WW2 shows you the past like you've never seen it before. Let's go back to the beginning. September 1st, 1939. German aircraft thunder over Poland. The Luftwaffe, Hermann Göring's pride and joy, unleashes the world's first modern air war. Dive bombers, fighters, tactical coordination with ground forces. It's called Blitzkrieg, lightning war, and it works. In 6 weeks, Poland falls, then Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Holland, and in May 1940, the unthinkable, France surrenders. The Luftwaffe seems invincible. Göring boasts to Hitler, "Give me the Luftwaffe, and I'll deliver you the world." But then comes Britain. The Battle of Britain, summer 1940. For the first time, the Luftwaffe faces an enemy that won't break. RAF Fighter Command, led by brilliant tacticians, bleeds the German Air Force white. The Luftwaffe loses 1,887 aircraft. The RAF loses 1,547. But Britain survives. Hitler postpones the invasion indefinitely. Worse is coming. June 1941, Operation Barbarossa. Hitler invades the Soviet Union with 3 million men and thousands of aircraft. The Luftwaffe dominates the skies at first, destroying over 4,000 Soviet planes in the opening days. But the Soviet Union is vast, endless, and the Soviets start building planes faster than Germany can destroy them. By 1943, the tide has turned. American bombers fill the sky over Germany. The Luftwaffe, once the hunter, becomes the hunted. 1944, D-Day. Allied air superiority is absolute. For every Luftwaffe plane that takes off, 10 don't come back. Fuel shortages, pilot losses, production can't keep up. Adolf Galland, by now general of fighters, pleads with Göring and Hitler, "We need jet fighters. We need better tactics. We're being slaughtered." They don't listen, or rather, they listen too late. By April 1945, the Luftwaffe is a shadow of itself. Experienced pilots are dead. Replacements are boys with 20 hours of training. Airfields are overrun. Fuel is gone. And then, on April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler kills himself in his Berlin bunker. 7 days later, Germany surrenders. The Luftwaffe, once the most feared air force in the world, is finished. But what happened to the men who led it? The aces who scored hundreds of kills? The commanders who planned the campaigns? That's what the color footage reveals. And what you're about to see will surprise you. The footage you're watching was shot in May 1945 by Allied forces. Recently restored and colorized, it shows top Luftwaffe officers and pilots shortly after Germany's surrender. Why was it filmed? Intelligence, propaganda, and historical record. The Allies wanted to document these men, both for war crimes investigations and to understand how Germany had created such a formidable air force. But what makes this footage so powerful isn't just what it shows, it's what it reveals about the human beings behind the uniforms. First, we see Hermann Göring, founder of the Luftwaffe, Hitler's designated successor, and by 1945, a morphine-addicted failure. In the footage, Göring is animated, talkative, almost cheerful. He jokes with his captors, shows off his medals, acts as if this is all some grand adventure. But look closer. Notice the forced smile, the manic energy. This is a man in denial. Göring had failed Hitler completely. The Luftwaffe he built couldn't stop the Allied bombing campaign that turned German cities into rubble. He couldn't protect Berlin. He couldn't win the Battle of Britain. And Hitler knew it. In his final days, Hitler stripped Göring of all rank and expelled him from the Nazi Party. Göring was tried at Nuremberg for war crimes, found guilty, sentenced to hang. But the night before his execution, October 15th, 1946, he swallowed a cyanide capsule smuggled into his cell. He died on his own terms, one final act of defiance. Next, Adolf Galland, fighter ace, 104 confirmed kills, general of fighters at age 30. In the color footage, Galland stands out, calm, composed, almost relaxed. You can see why his peers called him the gentleman fighter. Galland was brilliant, a natural pilot and tactician. He fought with honor, a rarity in a dishonorable war. Allied pilots who encountered him respected him, even liked him. But Galland and Göring hated each other. Galland wanted to focus on defending Germany with advanced jet fighters like the Me-262. Göring wanted to use them as bombers to strike back at the Allies, a tactical disaster. By January 1945, Göring had had enough. He removed Galland from command. What happened to him? Unlike most top Nazis, Galland wasn't prosecuted. The Allies recognized he was a soldier, not a war criminal. After the war, he became a consultant for the Argentine Air Force, then a successful businessman. Most remarkably, he became friends with former enemies, RAF pilots like Douglas Bader. They met at air shows, shared stories, and drank together late into the night. Galland died in 1996, age 83. To the end, he insisted, "I was a pilot, not a Nazi." And then there's Hans Ulrich Rudel, the most decorated German serviceman of Wubbelwitu, the only recipient of the Knight's Cross with golden oak leaves, swords, and diamonds. His record is staggering. 2,730 combat missions, more than any pilot in history. 509 MUS tanks destroyed, 1 battleship sunk, 70 landing craft destroyed, 150 gun positions eliminated, 9 aerial victories, shot down over 30 times, wounded 5 times, lost his right leg below the knee, kept flying anyway. In the color footage, Rudel looks ordinary, a regular guy. not the superhuman warrior of legend. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Rudel was a true believer, a committed Nazi. Unlike Galland, who saw himself as a soldier, Rudel believed in the cause until he died. What happened to him? Rudel fled to Argentina after the war. He helped other Nazis escape to South America, wrote his memoir, Stuka Pilot, which became a bestseller. Trained pilots for right-wing regimes, stayed connected to neo-Nazi circles. He never renounced his beliefs, never apologized, never expressed regret. Rudel died in 1982, age 66. His funeral was attended by hundreds, including former Luftwaffe pilots and unrepentant Nazis. These are the men the footage captures: complex, contradictory, some honorable, some monstrous, all human. If you're finding this fascinating, hit that like button and keep watching, because we're about to show you the aircraft they flew. In the color footage, you'll see something extraordinary. A Messerschmitt 262, the world's first operational jet fighter. When Allied pilots first encountered it in late 1944, they couldn't believe their eyes. No propeller, incredible speed. It could outrun anything the Allies had. One Allied pilot reported, "I saw something go past me like a bullet. By the time I realized what it was gone." The Me-262 was revolutionary. Top speed, 540 mph. Armament, 4 30mm cannons, enough to shred a B-17 bomber in seconds. If Germany had deployed it earlier, in greater numbers, it could have changed the war. But they didn't. Why? Hitler insisted it be used as a bomber, not a fighter. A disastrous decision. By the time Me-262s flew as fighters, it was too late. Fuel shortages, lack of trained pilots. Allied air superiority meant Me-262s were often destroyed on the ground before they could take off. Only about 1,400 were built. Fewer than 300 saw combat. After the war, both the US and Soviet Union captured Me-262s and studied them intensely. The technology directly influenced the development of American and Soviet jet fighters in the 1950s. Also visible in the footage, the Focke-Wulf FW-190, one of the best fighters of World War II. Tough, fast, heavily armed, Allied pilots feared it. When it first appeared in 1941, it outclassed the RAF's Spitfire Mark V. The FW-190 was versatile, used as a fighter, fighter-bomber, ground attack aircraft, and night fighter. Over 20,000 were built, more than any other German fighter except the Bf-109. Pilots loved it. It was stable, reliable, and packed a punch. Many Luftwaffe aces, including Otto Kittel, 267 kills, and Walter Nowotny, 258 kills, flew FW-190s. In the color footage, these magnificent machines sit idle, engines cold, wings still, guarded by Allied soldiers. Some were shipped to the US and Britain for testing. Others were destroyed. A few ended up in museums where they remain today, silent witnesses to a vanished era. But machines don't win wars. People do. And the color footage captures something machines can't: the human dimension of defeat. Watch the footage carefully. Look at the faces. Some Luftwaffe officers are smiling, joking, almost festive. Why? Because they're alive, and they're in Allied hands, not Soviet hands. German soldiers captured by the Soviets faced brutal treatment, forced labor, starvation, death. Over 1 million German POWs died in Soviet captivity. The men in this footage know they got lucky. Surrender to the Americans or British meant survival, decent treatment, eventually going home. But others look haunted, traumatized. They've seen friends die, cities burn, a nation destroyed, and they know what's coming. Reckoning. Not all Luftwaffe officers were prosecuted. Most pilots and crew were considered soldiers, not criminals. But some faced trials. Commanders accused of ordering attacks on civilians. Officers involved in atrocities. Albert Kesselring, visible in the footage, was tried for war crimes in Italy. Convicted, sentenced to death. The sentence was later commuted. He was released in 1952 and died in 1960. Others escaped justice entirely, fled to South America, changed identities, lived quiet lives, and then there were men like Galland, who genuinely seemed to have fought with honor. The Allies let them go. What must it have been like to go from master of the skies to prisoner? In his memoir, Galland wrote, "When I saw the Allied airfields, rows and rows of aircraft, more than I'd ever seen in my life, I understood. We never had a chance." Rudel, by contrast, refused to accept defeat. He wrote, "We were betrayed, stabbed in the back. We could have won." The footage captures this split. Some men accepting reality, others clinging to delusion. History isn't simple. These men weren't cartoons. They were human, flawed, complex, contradictory. If you're thinking about what it all means, drop a comment below and share this video, because this is history people need to see what the footage means. Why does this color footage matter? Because for decades we've seen Tutu in black and white, grainy, distant, almost unreal. But color changes everything. Suddenly these aren't historical figures. They're people. You can see the texture of their uniforms, the stubble on their faces, the glint in their eyes. It makes the past immediate, real, uncomfortable. The technology legacy. The Luftwaffe's technological innovations didn't die in 1945. They were absorbed by the victors. Jet engines, rocket technology, radar, all of it studied, copied, improved. Werner von Braun, the rocket scientist who designed the V-2, was brought to America under Operation Paperclip. He became the father of NASA's space program. The Saturn V rocket that took humans to the moon was a direct descendant of his V-2. The moral question: was it right to use Nazi technology, to employ Nazi scientists? There's no easy answer. What about the pilots, the men in the footage? Most went home, returned to civilian life, tried to forget. Some became successful. Galland ran a business, wrote books, gave interviews. Others struggled, haunted by what they'd seen, what they'd done. And a few, like Rudel, never let go. They spent the rest of their lives defending the indefensible. What can we learn from this footage? From these men? Maybe this: war makes heroes and monsters, often in the same person. Bravery and evil aren't opposites. They can coexist. The Luftwaffe pilots were skilled, courageous, and they fought for one of history's most monstrous regimes. Both things are true. History isn't a morality play. It's messy, complicated, full of contradictions, and that's exactly why we need to study it. This color footage, restored from decades-old film, gives us something precious: the ability to see. Not just to read about these men, but to look them in the eye. To see Hermann Göring's forced smile, Adolf Galland's quiet dignity, Hans-Ulrich Rudel's intensity. To see the aircraft they flew. The Me-262 that represented the future. The FW-190 that filled the skies over Europe. And to see the end. The moment when the Luftwaffe, the most powerful air force of its time, ceased to exist. So what do you think? Should we remember these men as warriors, war criminals, both? What does it mean to see them in color, as real people, not historical abstractions? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is a conversation worth having. And if this video moved you, educated you, or made you think, do me a favor. Subscribe to Voices from WW22. We're showing you what, like you've never seen it before. Restored footage, unballed stories, the human dimension of history. Next week, the Red Baron's final flight, new evidence about WWI's greatest ace. Hit that notification bell, because history is more than dates and battles. It's faces, lives, stories. This has been Voices from WW2. Keep learning, keep questioning, and never